When you look in the mirror right now, is that truly the person you aspire to be? Or is it simply a product of today's fleeting circumstances? Welcome to Reset Mindset, the gathering place for future millionaires. In our previous videos, we've been walking the path of living the self you desire. In part 1, you learned how to trick your brain and rewrite your reality. In part 2, you understood how emotions shape your world. And in part 3, you mastered the practice of action triumphing over thought. But today, I'm going to share the most profound truth, the ultimate element that forms the foundation of all these principles, and simultaneously allows them to truly blossom. Some people change their thoughts, master their emotions, and take consistent action, yet they still don't change. The reason is simple. They haven't transformed their core identity. This video is the culmination of everything we've learned, the final stage that brings about a powerful, integrated transformation. Thoughts certainly create reality, but where do those thoughts truly originate? Emotions undoubtedly attract reality, but what is the wellspring of those emotions? Actions certainly produce results, but who is the entity choosing those actions? The answer is identity. Your deepest self-perception of who you are is the root of all your thoughts, feelings, and actions. I myself once faced a mountain of debt, dreaded waking up each morning, and hated looking at myself in the mirror. I tried to change my thoughts. I tried to control my emotion. I even took action. But fundamentally, nothing changed. Why? Because I still held the identity of a struggling failure, drowning in debt. When that identity shifted, everything else transformed. Or more accurately, I transformed. The 10 principles I'm about to share are concrete methodologies to shift your consciousness from wanting to be the person you desire to already being that person. This isn't about invalidating what you've learned. Rather, it's the most crucial key to maximizing all of it. When your identity shifts, your thoughts naturally align with those of a millionaire. Your emotions will resonate with those of a successful individual. And your actions will no longer be an effort, but a natural expression of who you are. So today, you have a choice to make: continue with partial improvements or choose a complete fundamental transformation. Let's begin. 1. The courage to release your old self first. I want to ask you, are you truly ready to change? Because the first step to genuine transformation begins with letting go of who you are right now. This isn't just about changing habits. It's about releasing the very identity you've built over many years. In psychology, this is often called the death of the ego. It sounds scary, right? But this very fear is often the sign that you truly need to change. Why is this important? The reason is simple. You can't put new wine into old wineskins. Similarly, a new identity can never take root if the old self-image remains. Many people strive for self-improvement, but improvement is merely an extension of your current self. What I'm talking about is far more profound: complete transformation. It's a process of death and rebirth, from one self to a completely different self. All successful people have become entirely different individuals from who they once were. They didn't just improve, they were reborn. Consider the story of Tyler Perry, the famous Hollywood producer. At one point, he was homeless, living in his car. But his true success wasn't simply because he worked hard. It was because he let go of the identity of a poor black man and completely redefined himself as a creative storyteller. He said, "I had to break up with my past self. It was scarier than dying because it was the only me I knew. But when I let go of that old self, new possibilities flooded in. Tyler Perry spent years releasing the pain and anger of his past, the abuse from his father, poverty, discrimination. All of these had become part of his identity. But one day, he realized that as long as he was trapped by these experiences, he couldn't move forward. He wrote in his journal, "I am no longer a victim. I am a creator." From that moment, his life began to change. He started transforming his pain into stories that could heal others. Today, Tyler Perry is a billionaire and one of the most influential figures in Hollywood. But he always says the hardest part wasn't making money. It was letting go of his old self. Now, you might be doubting this, thinking, is that even possible? If I let go of myself, what will be left? That fear is normal because your brain prefers the status quo. Change goes against your survival instincts. But remember, beyond that fear lies your true power. The crucial point here is to understand that letting go of the old self isn't losing something, it's being liberated. You lose nothing. You simply become free from limitations. Something inside you might be resisting right now, a voice saying, "But this is just who I am." But that very voice is the chain holding you back. Remember, if there's no space, nothing new can enter. You can't put new furniture into a room already filled with old furniture. Likewise, there's no room for a new identity in a mind cluttered with old self-images. That's why the first step is to let go. This isn't just a conceptual understanding. It's a deep transformation that involves the dismantling and rebuilding of actual neural pathways. 2. Rapid identity transition. Next, I want to tell you that change doesn't always have to take time. In fact, a shift in consciousness can happen in an instant. In quantum physics, there's a phenomenon called a quantum jump, where an electron instantaneously moves from one energy level to another without passing through an intermediate state. Human consciousness can leap to a new state in the same instantaneous way. Many people believe change takes time, but that's just a belief. In reality, the most dramatic life changes often stem from a single, instantaneous decision. Why is this possible? Because the person you desire isn't someone else. It's a possibility that already exists within you. You don't become it. You simply remember what's already inside. Let me share my own detailed experience. Years ago, I was deep in debt, waking up each morning with a sense of despair. The moment my alarm rang one morning, I made a decision while still in bed. From today, I am a successful person. It wasn't a calculated decision. It wasn't the result of theoretical analysis. It was just a profound weariness combined with a powerful conviction that surged through me. Enough is enough. I am going to be a different person. From that moment, everything changed. First, the way I got out of bed changed. Before, I'd drag my heavy body up, but that morning, I rose lightly. As I showered, I asked myself, how would a successful person think? As I ate breakfast, I read the business section of the newspaper, pages I would have ignored before. On my commute, I observed the people around me and thought, what do they need to solve their problems? When I arrived at the office, my colleagues noticed my change. They said, "You're different today." I smiled and replied, "Yeah, my perspective shifted a bit." From that day, my behavior patterns completely transformed. During lunchtime, I read self-investment books, and in the evenings, I developed new business ideas. On weekends, I started attending seminars where successful people gathered. My income began to increase 3 months later. But what was important wasn't the income, it was that my inner change came first. The external results were merely the inevitable outcome of that internal shift. 6 months later, I became independent. A year later, I paid off all my past debts. I am now convinced that the decision I made that morning was the turning point of my life. The key is that this identity transition wasn't an act. I wasn't pretending to be successful. I actually chose to be successful and lived in that truth. But you might doubt this, thinking, it can't be that easy to change. I understand that skepticism, because society teaches us that change is difficult and takes time. However, consider this. When you fell in love, didn't your world instantly change? When you lost someone dear, didn't the meaning of life shift in a flash? A shift in consciousness is always instantaneous. While preparation might take time, the actual change happens in an instant, like flipping a switch in a dark room, and suddenly the world becomes bright. What you need now is preparation for this instantaneous transition. First, clearly visualize the person you desire to be. Then, right now, choose to live as that person. This isn't self-deception. This is choosing your most divine self, because your essence is infinite possibility. Remember, you don't need a bridge between the person you were yesterday and the person you are today. All you need is a single decision. 3. To be rather than to have. Here's a profound truth I want to convey. The essence of success lies not in having, but in being. Many people mistakenly believe that if they have money, they will be rich, or if they have love, they will be loved. But that order is reversed. From ancient philosophy to modern psychology, human experience is recognized to have 3 levels. The lowest is the having mode, owning things or abilities. Next is the doing mode, actions and achievements. And the highest is the being mode, a pure state of self-awareness as existence itself. Truly successful people understand this hierarchy. They don't try to have wealth. They choose to be a wealthy presence. As a result, wealth flows to them. For example, consider the difference between I have $100 million and I am a wealthy being. The former is external and fluctuates. The latter is internal and constant. Why is this important? The reason is clear. Having and doing always depend on external conditions, but being is an inexhaustible spring that flows from within you. Let me tell you about a practitioner. Years ago, he was unemployed with 0 savings. In a desperate situation, he made a decision. I don't have money, but I am a wealthy person. This wasn't denial of reality. Rather, it was a recognition of a deeper truth. He explained, I realized that wealth isn't a number in a bank account, but a state of consciousness. I was rich in my creativity, knowledge, and passion. The moment he recognized this, everything began to change. He started living with a wealthy consciousness even while unemployed. When he woke up in the morning, he declared, "Today is a rich day." As he walked through the city, he felt he was part of this abundant world. Interesting things started happening. First, his attitude changed. In interviews, he acted as someone offering value, not as someone seeking a handout. When he met people, he approached them with a giving attitude, not asking for anything. 3 weeks later, an unexpected job offer came. A former colleague was starting a new project and needed his talents. The pay was better than before. 6 months later, he started a side business, an idea born from his wealthy consciousness. A year later, that side business surpassed his main income. Now he says, "At first, it felt like acting, but as I kept at it, I knew it was true. We are essentially abundant beings. We just forget it." But you might doubt this, thinking, "That's not realistic. You can't live without money." That's true, but don't get the order wrong. Start with being. What do you truly desire, money or abundance? To be loved or to be a loving presence? In truth, what people truly seek isn't things. It's the state of being they believe those things will bring. What you need to do now is choose to be the desired state, not to have it. If you want to be rich, then act like a wealthy being from this moment on. This isn't falsehood. This is recognizing and expressing your inherent abundance, because the universe itself is infinite abundance. If you want to be loved, become a loving presence. If you want to be respected, become a dignified presence. It all starts with being. And remember, being requires no effort. It is a choice. You can choose the being you desire at this very moment. Which will you choose? A life of chasing or a life you already possess? The choice is always in your hands. 4. Authenticity beyond masks. Here, we must make an important distinction. Living the self you desire isn't about putting on a new mask. Many people wear various masks in life. Social roles, masks to meet others' expectations. In psychology, this is called a persona. However, while these masks might function temporarily, they don't bring about true transformation, because a mask is always an act. The living the self you desire principle I'm discussing isn't superficial. This is a more sacred truth, a process of liberating the real you. Consider this. What do you truly desire? To be acknowledged by others, or to express yourself completely? Look at truly successful people. They don't wear masks. They are more authentic than anyone else. That authenticity becomes the magnetic force that draws people in. Let me share my own experience. I once lived by constantly switching between various masks. In business, I wore the mask of a competent executive. In my private life, the mask of a strong man. In front of my family, the mask of a perfect father. These masks seemed to work well at first. People valued me, respected me, and relied on me. But internally I was exhausted, because maintaining those masks required enormous energy. One day, during an important presentation at a meeting, I suddenly lost my words. My mind went blank and sweat poured down. I stood there, everyone's gaze on me. In that moment, something broke. My mask shattered. I took a deep breath and honestly said, "Excuse me, I'm actually very nervous right now. Please give me a moment." The conference room fell silent. I thought my career was over. But the next moment, the most unexpected thing happened. One of the clients smiled and said, "It's okay, we're all human." The rest of the presentation was the best I'd ever given, because for the first time, I spoke as my true self. From that day on, I started removing my masks. At first, there was fear. If I show weakness, I'll be scorned. If I show imperfections, I'll lose trust. But the opposite happened. My relationships with my subordinates deepened. They started sharing their own vulnerabilities. Team cohesion improved dramatically. My family relationships also changed. I stopped trying to be the perfect father and sometimes honestly expressed my fatigue or anxiety. Then, my wife and children also started expressing their emotions more openly. What surprised me most were the business results. When I approached clients with authenticity, they placed deeper trust in me. When people felt I was genuine, they were happy to do business. Why is authenticity important? The reason is simple. Masks require energy to maintain, but being authentic requires no energy. More importantly, your subconscious mind cannot lie. Even if you superficially act like a successful person, if your deepest consciousness doesn't believe it, reality won't change. Authenticity is the complete alignment of outer and inner. When you live the self you desire, it must be the expression of your deepest truth, not an act. But you might worry, I don't even know who my true self is. That confusion is normal. If you've worn masks for years, it's natural to lose sight of your true self. But rest assured, your true self isn't lost. It's just hidden beneath the masks. And the self you desire is the purest expression of that true self. In other words, the self-image you truly desire is actually your most authentic self. It's not a wish, it's the voice of your inner truth. Now I ask you, how long will you continue to wear masks? How long will you continue to meet others' expectations? True success begins when you shed your masks. When you become authentic, the world will begin to respond to you authentically. Remember, by becoming an authentic being, you create an authentic reality. 5. Full responsibility for self-creation. Here's the most crucial truth I'll share. You are your own creator. This isn't a metaphor, it's a literal fact. Existentialist philosophy and modern psychology both show that humans are fundamentally self-creating beings. That is, you have the responsibility and ability to continuously create and choose yourself. Many people turn away from this truth because responsibility is heavy. It's easier to blame circumstances or others. But consider this. If you are a victim of your life, you have no power to change. However, if you are the creator, you have the power to change everything. Let me tell you about a practitioner's profound transformation. She was a woman in her mid-40s who had worked for a large corporation for many years. On the surface, she was successful, but internally she was completely stuck. My life was a series of others' decisions, she shared. I chose my university because of my parents' expectations, my profession for stability, and even my marriage was due to social pressure. She was always a victim. My boss is bad, the company culture is bad, society is bad, the times are bad. Complaints and criticisms always came from her mouth, but one day, a lecturer at a workshop asked, "What in your life have you chosen for yourself?" She couldn't answer. That night, she cried alone in her hotel room. She realized that she had lived for 45 years without ever living her own life. The next day, she made a decision. From today, I will take full responsibility for everything. It was a terrifying decision for her. First, she analyzed her life. Her dissatisfaction with her job was the result of her own stability-seeking choices. The coldness in her marriage was due to her own lack of communication. At first, it was painful, she recalled. Admitting that everything was my fault felt like self-denial. But a strange thing began to happen. By taking responsibility, she started to see options. If I created this reality, I can change it myself. She first changed her attitude at work. Instead of criticizing, she started making suggestions. Instead of blaming her boss, she looked for what she could do. 3 months later, she was promoted to project leader. "You've changed," her boss said. "Before, you only pointed out problems, but now you bring solutions." Changes also happened at home. Instead of criticizing her husband, she started expressing her feelings honestly. "I want to improve our relationship," she told him. Her husband was surprised, but gradually a dialogue began. For the first time in 20 years, they spoke honestly with each other. Their relationship dramatically improved. A year later, she decided to become independent. When she stopped blaming the company, she started to see what she truly wanted to do. She put a long-cherished business idea into action and launched an education consulting firm. It was tough at first, but she no longer blamed anyone. She accepted that both failures and successes were the results of her own choices. This attitude earned her clients' trust. They praised her for being responsible. Her business began to grow steadily. 3 years later, her company now employs 50 people. Her income has quintupled. But what she values most isn't financial success. The biggest change is knowing that I am the creator of my own life, she says. Why is taking responsibility for self-creation important? The reason is clear. You cannot have power until you take responsibility. A victim is always powerless, but a creator is omnipotent. The deepest aspect of living the self you desire is to transform this self-creation process from unconscious to conscious. In other words, you have always created yourself. It was just unconscious. From now on, you will consciously create the self you desire. It is your right, your responsibility, and your greatest privilege. Remember, from this moment on, you are not a victim. You are the creator. When you embrace this truth, living the self you desire will transform from a mere possibility into an inevitability. 6. Integrating the shadow aspect. Here's an important truth that many people overlook. True transformation requires the integration of your shadow. In psychology, shadow refers to the aspects of the self that have been denied or suppressed. Fear, anger, desire, weakness. Parts hidden from the light of consciousness. Many people try to develop only their positive traits, but that's only half the truth. Without wholeness, true power cannot emerge. Why is shadow integration important? The reason is simple. What is suppressed always creates resistance at an unconscious level. This hinders you from living the self you desire. For example, if you suppress a fear of success, even if you consciously desire success, your unconscious mind will engage in self-sabotaging behaviors. Truly successful people understand this principle. They don't deny their shadow, rather, they recognize it, accept it, and constructively utilize it. Look at the example of the legendary basketball player, Kobe Bryant. He was one of the most complete practitioners of shadow integration. Kobe didn't hide his darkness. Rather, he openly acknowledged it and transformed it into a source of power. The Black Mamba persona he created is a symbol of this. The Black Mamba is my shadow self, Kobe said. The killer instinct, the ruthlessness, the relentless obsession, qualities that are normally hidden, I embraced and utilized. His competitiveness was often described as pathological. He played in practice like it was a championship game. He wouldn't allow himself to lose, even with friends. Many said, Kobe is too competitive. He needs to relax more. But he was different. He understood that this excessive competitiveness was his greatest weapon. I'm not afraid of my darkness, he said. Instead, I made friends with it. In crucial moments of the game, I become the Black Mamba, a calculated, lethal presence. In 2004, Kobe faced the biggest crisis of his life when he was accused of sexual assault. His image plummeted, sponsors left, and fans turned away. Many would have denied this shadow and tried to hide it, but Kobe was different. He admitted his mistakes and faced them. That experience was my darkest period, he recalled. But that's also part of me. No one is perfect. What matters is how you face your darkness. He transformed this experience into an opportunity for self-reform. He sought counseling, mended his relationships, and grew as a deeper human being. The Kobe who returned afterwards was stronger than before. In 2009 and 2010, he won championships and was named Finals MVP. By integrating my shadow, I became a more complete person, he said. By embracing both light and dark, I gained true strength. Kobe also acknowledged his obsession. I'm pathologically detailed, he admitted. It sometimes wears people out, but that's what made me great. He woke up at 4 a.m. to practice. People said Kobe was crazy. But he replied, this craziness is what creates the difference between me and other players. Most impressively, Kobe's message to younger players was, don't be afraid of your darkness. It's part of you. The problem isn't having darkness. It's how you use it. He continued, my aggression, my obsession, my ruthlessness, these aren't evil. If given direction, they become the best weapons. Don't deny your shadow. Integrate it. After Kobe's death, many players testified he wasn't perfect, but he acknowledged his imperfections and turned them into strengths. That's what made him special. Shadow integration is called the principle of wholeness. When you embrace your entire self, only then is true power unleashed. If you ignore your shadow, it will create resistance at an unconscious level, hindering the practice of living the self you desire. True transformation requires embracing your entire self, including undesirable aspects, and utilizing the energy of the shadow to strengthen your new identity. This is called the principle of wholeness, and it is the key to true self-realization. From today, begin a dialogue with your shadow. Instead of denying it, understand it. Instead of suppressing it, integrate it, and you will discover how much power is unleashed by integrating your shadow. Only within wholeness can you fully live the self you desire. 7. Intuition, an alliance with inner wisdom. Here, I'll talk about a secret weapon many successful people possess, a conscious relationship with intuitive intelligence that transcends logic. Both psychology and practical success philosophies acknowledge that within us lies a source of wisdom beyond everyday thought. We call this intuition, inner voice, or higher self. Many people rely on logic and analysis. While important, the most profound ideas and decisions often stem from intuition. Why is intuitive intelligence important? The reason is clear. Logical thinking is based on past data. However, intuition can access future possibilities. For a deeper level of practice in living the self you desire, this cooperative relationship with intuitive intelligence it's essential, because the self you desire exists in a realm beyond logic. Let me share a detailed experience of a practitioner. She was a middle manager at a large corporation, but now she is a successful entrepreneur. I was a numbers person, she recounted. I analyzed everything in spreadsheets and made decisions based on data. I thought intuition was unscientific. But one day, she had a significant promotion opportunity. The conditions were perfect, based on data, double salary, a clear path to the top of her career. Logically, there was no reason to refuse. But during the interview, she was struck by a strange sensation, a strong feeling that something was off. Physically, she felt a heaviness in her stomach. She couldn't explain why. She was confused. It was a perfect offer. Logically, she thought, why am I having this feeling? She started doubting herself. For several days, she wavered between logic and intuition. Friends and family all urged her that it was a wonderful opportunity, but that heavy feeling wouldn't disappear. At that point, she started meditating. She decided to set logical thinking aside for a moment and listen to her inner voice. In meditation, a clear message emerged. This is not your path. At the same time, she saw a completely different vision, herself running a small company. It seemed crazy, she recalled, to turn down a stable corporate position and choose the uncertain path of entrepreneurship. But there was a strange conviction in that vision. It felt like a message from a deeper wisdom, beyond logic. Ultimately, she declined the promotion. Her colleagues were shocked. They told her she was crazy. But for the first time, she felt a true sense of peace. 3 months later, she resigned and launched a small consulting firm. It was a struggle at first, but strangely, the necessary help appeared when she needed it. Since I started following my intuition, synchronicity increased, she says. Chance encounters led to important contracts, and sudden ideas became innovative services. A year later, her company achieved unexpected growth. Her income tripled, and more importantly, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. And then, something surprising came to light. The company she had turned down underwent a massive restructuring 6 months later, and the department she would have joined was dismantled. Intuition knew what logic couldn't predict, she asserts. Since then, I've treated intuition as my most trusted advisor. Now, before making important decisions, she always does an intuition check. She sits quietly, brings the options to mind, and observes her body's reaction. Intuition has distinct characteristics, she explains. True intuition is quiet, confident, and accompanied by physical sensations. It's clearly different from impulses driven by fear or desire. Her success wasn't because she abandoned logic. It was because she utilized both logic and intuition. Logic is the map. Intuition is the compass, she explains. When living the self you desire, intuition becomes especially important because your highest potential lies beyond the scope of logical thought. From today, consciously cultivate your intuition. It's not just an ability, it's an access point to your deeper wisdom. And you will discover how much richer your life becomes by following intuition. The shortest path to the self you desire is often shown by intuition. 8. Long-term vision. Transcending limits. See, we need to fundamentally change our perception of time. Truly successful people always view things from a long-term perspective. Many people are swayed by short-term results, this week's sales, this month's performance. But that's a nearsighted way of living. The mature form of living the self you desire involves thinking in time frames of 5, 10, sometimes even generations. This is the power of true vision. Why is a long-term vision important? The reason is clear. A short-term perspective creates fear and anxiety, but a long-term perspective fosters confidence and patience. Consider this. Today's small failures are trivial when viewed from 10 years in the future. Conversely, today's small progress will make a huge difference in 10 years. Look at Cristiano Ronaldo. He is the ultimate practitioner of a long-term perspective. At 39 years old, he continues to play at a world-class level. His secret lies in a long-term plan that began in his early 20s. I planned for a long career, not short-term glory, Ronaldo says. While many players were enjoying the present, I was looking 15, 20 years ahead. Young Ronaldo was bursting with talent, but that alone wasn't enough for him. He realized that talent alone would fade by his 30s. So he began long-term management of his body and mind. At 25, he made a surprising decision. He completely cut out alcohol. While everyone was raising toasts, I was drinking water, he recalls. Why? Alcohol delays recovery. A one-day delay makes a big difference in a year, and in 10 years, it becomes an irreversible difference. He also rigorously managed his diet. I considered every meal an investment, he explained. What I eat today determines my performance 5 years from now. While many players enjoyed fast food, Ronaldo ate grilled chicken and broccoli. People found it boring, but he said, being at the top at 35 is my enjoyment. He scientifically managed his sleep, ensuring 8 hours of high-quality sleep every day. Sleep is for recovery. Players who ignore this hit a wall at 30. His training was also designed with a long-term perspective. Many players train for the current season. I train for 5 years from now, he says. He particularly focused on strength training. Muscles decline with age, so you need to build up a reserve when you're young. This muscle reserve is the secret to maintaining his high jumping ability even at 39. Most moving is his message to his son. Talent is just the beginning. What matters is shining 30 years from now. Prepare for that, starting today. Ronaldo's secret to success isn't just talent or effort. It's that he thought in a longer time frame than anyone else. You can possess the same quality. From today, view every event in the context of 10 years. You'll find that many worries will disappear. And remember, a long-term vision isn't about ignoring the present. Rather, it's about giving deeper meaning to the present, because you know that today's small choices will make a huge difference 10 years from now. This is the essence of the compounding effect. When living the self you desire, this long-term perspective is essential because true transformation matures over time. From today, make time your ally, not your enemy. Have a 10-year vision and live today as part of it. And you will discover how much peace of mind and confidence in action you gain from having a long-term perspective. 9. Success through purpose. Here, I'll share the most important truth about the essence of success. True success always arises from a connection to a purpose beyond oneself. Many people seek success for personal gain, money, fame, power. But those are hollow, because self-centered success is never truly fulfilling. Look at truly successful people. They are all serving something greater than themselves. That gives them infinite energy and meaning. The most mature form of living the self you desire manifests as a contribution to the greater whole, transcending personal transformation. Why is purpose important? The reason is clear. Purpose gives you the strength to overcome difficult times. It imbues daily actions with profound meaning. Let me share a deep experience of a practitioner. He prefers not to be named, but he was once a typical successful person. High income, a big house, luxury cars. He seemed to have it all. I was achieving goals one after another, he recounted. Sales goals, asset goals. I cleared them all. But with each achievement, the emptiness grew. On his 40th birthday, he fell into severe depression. He kept asking himself, I have everything, so why am I so empty? One day, he read a small article about how many children in developing countries lacked access to basic education. For some reason, that article resonated deeply with him. I have 2 children, he explained. They receive the best education, but there are children in the world who don't even have that opportunity. He started with a small donation. But that wasn't enough. A desire to be more directly involved grew within him. So he made a decision. He would dedicate 1 week each month to educational support activities in developing countries. Those around him were surprised. Why would you do that? They asked. His first visit completely changed his perspective on life. The children's pure desire to learn, the joy of being able to help them. It was a fulfillment I had never felt before. As he continued his activities, he realized, my true talent wasn't making money. It was teaching and nurturing people. Eventually, he founded an NGO for educational support. While continuing his main job, he invested most of its profits into the NGO. Money is just a means, he said. A surprising thing happened. The moment he had a purpose, his main business also began to grow exponentially. Before, I worked for myself. Now, I work for the children. His business partners also noticed the change. They testified that his energy had shifted. He became more passionate and more creative. 5 years later, his NGO operates in 10 countries, providing educational opportunities to thousands of children. His main business's revenue has also tripled. My definition of success has changed, he says. Before, personal achievement was success. Now, it's how many children I can provide opportunities for. His depression completely vanished. Purpose healed me, he firmly believes. Only by serving something greater than myself did I truly meet my real self. Why does this happen? The reason is clear. People who serve a purpose naturally provide value, and value returns to those who provide it. From today, ask of every action, does this serve my purpose? And eliminate actions that don't align with your purpose. By having a purpose, your life becomes part of a larger story, not just a personal one. This is the source of true fulfillment. Remember, your transformation through your purpose brings concrete change to the world. 10. Absolute fidelity to the new self. Finally, let's talk about the most challenging truth, the necessity of unwavering fidelity to the self you desire. In the process of transformation, you will inevitably face trials, the pull of old habits, resistance from your surroundings, self-doubt. All of these will try to pull you back to your old state. In psychology, this is called the law of homeostasis. All systems tend to resist change and revert to their original state. That's why absolute fidelity to your new self is crucial. This isn't just determination. It's positioning it as an unshakable value. Why is fidelity important? The reason is clear. In the early stages of change, your new identity is still fragile. It can easily waver. But with absolute fidelity, your inner compass remains steady even amidst external storms. This is the key to sustained transformation. Let me tell you about my most difficult period. 6 months after choosing my new self, everything seemed to fall apart. First, I started to be ostracized by my longtime friend group. They couldn't understand the change me. They said, "You've changed too much. We like the old you better." Next, my business partners left. They criticized, "We don't understand your new approach. It's too risky." There was even pressure from my family, and they were confused, asking, "Why do you need to change so much? Please go back to how you were." The most tormenting was my own self-doubt. When I was alone late at night, a voice would whisper, "Is this a mistake? The old me was easier." One night, I stood in front of the mirror. The person reflected there was indeed different from before. For a moment, I considered going back. But in that instant, I remembered why I had chosen this path. The days I was buried in debt, the nights I cried myself to sleep, and I resolved I will remain faithful to this new self. That resolve changed everything. First, an inner peace returned. The external criticisms continued, but they no longer shook me. And then, a strange thing began to happen. New people started appearing. People who shared the same values and were moving in the same direction. 6 months later, the situation had reversed. My new business was taking off. My new friendships were deeper than before, and my family gradually began to understand. Most surprisingly, some of the people who had criticized me before now sought my advice. "How did you change?" "I want to change too," they asked. From this experience, I learned that the trial of fidelity will always come. It's like a rite of passage for transformation. And when you overcome that trial, true transformation is completed. I am now convinced that if I had chosen to go back that night, I would have regretted it for the rest of my life. Maintaining fidelity to my new self made me who I am today. From today, declare every morning, "I am faithful to my new self," and choose all your actions for the day based on that fidelity. Eventually, that fidelity will become a habit. A habit will become character, and character will become destiny. This is the law of transformation. Remember, your unwavering fidelity shows the possibility of change to those around you. Absolute fidelity to your new self. This is the final and most important element of living the self you desire. Today, I've shared with you the 10 principles of living the self you desire. These aren't just concepts. They are practical tools for transformation. Starting with the courage to release your old self and concluding with absolute fidelity to your new self, every step in between enables your complete transformation. However, knowledge alone changes nothing. Practice is what matters. So now I'm going to give you a concrete action plan. The first step, starting today, is an identity declaration. Tonight, take 30 minutes and on a piece of paper, write out, "I am your desired self." Clearly declare the person you aspire to be. Then, starting tomorrow morning, read that declaration every day. Look into your own eyes in the mirror as you do it. It might feel awkward at first, but when you continue for 21 days, it will become truth. Why 21 days? Because neuroscience suggests this is the minimum period required for a new habit to become ingrained in your brain. By living as your desired self for 21 days, it becomes a permanent change. This simple practice will fundamentally transform your life. Because when your identity changes, your thoughts change, your actions change, and your results change. And don't forget, you are not alone. Right now, there are others around the world practicing the same principles and changing their lives. When you change, the world changes. This isn't hyperbole. Your transformation ripples out to your family, your friends, your workplace, and your community. Your very existence holds immeasurable influence. If you've watched this far, I want you to declare in the comments below, I am living the self I desire. I also welcome any questions you have. I'll prioritize answering questions from Reset Mindset members. So if you want to elevate yourself further, be sure to join. For those of you who watched to the very end, you are special. Many people drop off halfway, but you are different. You have a serious desire for transformation. That's why I'm going to share one bonus practice, the ultimate challenge to maximize the 10 principles we discussed today. It's the 21-day transformation challenge. Starting today, this is a complete practice program to literally live as your desired self for 21 days. Every morning, spend 5 minutes on your identity declaration. 3 times during the day, do a self-check. In the evening, journal your observations for the day. When you complete this challenge 100%, you will be a different person. No, more accurately, you will be your true self. I've linked detailed instructions in the description below, and I've made sure it's free to access, so no worries there. And finally, my promise to you, when you complete this challenge, your life will have changed beyond your imagination. It's a scientific fact, the testimony of countless practitioners and my own experience. Now is the time to choose. Will you close this video and return to your daily routine, or will you embark on the 21-day challenge and change your life? I believe you will choose the latter, because you have the power to change the world. Let's begin. The journey to living the self you desire. Your transformation is the beginning of the world's transformation. Thank you for watching to the end. See you in the next video.